You know, I really love doing the morning show because sometimes we get stories fresh out the oven. So step aside, all my bakers, because Trump, here's what happened. Trump gets no jail time or penalties in sentence for hush money conviction. So, all right, this video did come out at least an hour before we went live. So, if you're watching Hard Lens Media, we're going to watch it together, as a family should. But here was the alert that was happening, and I have the updated article and follow up. And of course, now you got the vote blue no matter who people dancing like morons because they think, oh no, Trump got sentenced. No, he's still going to be president. You idiotic people.
Sentence in that New York versus Trump case after the Supreme Court blocked his bid to postpone the sentencing late last night.
Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn is live at the New York State Supreme Court. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Ainsley. Well, he won't be going to jail, but there could be a fine and a tongue lashing by Judge Juan Merchan. That after the Supreme Court gave this sentencing the go-ahead last night. In its decision, the High Court rejected Trump's bid to delay his sentencing, though four conservative justices, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, said they would have granted a stay. The court said, quote, "The burden that sentencing will impose on the president-elect's responsibilities is relatively insubstantial in light of the trial court's stated intent to impose a sentence of unconditional discharge after a brief virtual hearing."
They called for an appeal, and as you know, they acknowledged what the judge said about no penalty, and there's no penalty. But we're going to appeal anyway, just psychologically, because frankly, it's a disgrace. It's a judge that shouldn't have been on the case. He's a highly conflicted judge, and they called for an appeal. So I read it, and I thought it was a fair decision, actually.
The president-elect will not be here in person. He'll be attending this virtually. He's in Florida. He was convicted, of course, last May on 34 counts of filing false business instruments for paying off Stormy Daniels, so voters would not find about their alleged tryst during the 2016 presidential election.
I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, because unfortunately, you have the hashtag Trump is a convicted felon, you know, being shared all over social media. And look, I get it. Vote blue, no matter who. I get it. Happy Friday to all who celebrate. Trump is in court for sentencing day today. Okay, still, yes, whatever. He's still president. All right. And yet he beat Biden and Kamala. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. And of course, countries that convicted felon Donald Trump will not be allowed to go in after tomorrow. Oh my goodness, denied. My goodness. Okay, again, he's still president. Okay. Of course, you got someone else saying President Obama is the greatest president ever. Trump will never measure up. You got all this stuff. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna move this from Blue Sky app to here for all of you still here. Oh my goodness, yes. Wow, Trump is a convicted felon. Trump is a convicted felon, and you've got so many people doing a fake victory dance. He's still president. Case in point, Trump gets no jail time or penalties in sentence for hush money conviction, okay? What you need to know, Trump sentence, President-elect Donald Trump has been sentenced to unconditional discharge for his conviction last year on 34 charges of business fraud related to hush money payment to, again, adult film performer Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. Fermilab, what did you do with that collider machine? I mean, why is this timeline just so disappointing? Okay. What the sentence means, unconditional discharge means Trump will not be imprisoned, so he's not going to jail, fined, or face prohibition, but his conviction still stands, and he will enter office as a convicted felon. Do you think any Trump supporter gives a damn about that? Do you think any independent gives a damn about that? Okay, most of our politicians are felons, okay? They're doing insider trading. We are ruled over by sociopaths who could be bought over by Wall Street. So Trump being a convicted felon, it ain't anything new. This is nothing new. We have seen this before. We have lived through it throughout the decades. So what is everyone going to do about it? You could celebrate that Trump's a convicted felon. You think anybody gives a damn? You think he gives a damn? He profited off his stupid mugshot photo. And yet corporate media says, this is it. The walls are closing in. This is it. The walls are closing in. You think he cares? Nobody cares. This isn't the big victory that people make it out to be.
before that. His lawyers argued the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision also covers him before he takes office. But Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg countered that presidential immunity, he said, does not apply because Trump was not president when he broke the law.
Jenny Simon writes this question. How does a convicted felon who can't own a firearm be the commander-in-chief with a nuclear football? Easy. It's called corruption. It's also called no one really gives the top 1%. The laws of the land don't apply to them. If you are a billionaire or if you're part of that big club, the laws of this land do not apply to you. You got that special treatment. I keep recommending this show. If you haven't seen it, check out Succession. You'll see how our media and political sphere really plays out. Great program, great show. I love it. 10 out of 10. L to the OG.
Our function right now primarily is to continue to give voice to that verdict and respect, really as a principle, bedrock principle of the administration of justice, that the jury's voice must not be rubbed out. Can't go back in time, can't change anything else. Our job is to apply the law and the facts. We did our job and we'll continue to do it.
Well, the president-elect theoretically could face up to $170,000 in fines. Not likely that he will actually get those fines. We'll see what happens during the hearing. And as far as the legalities are concerned, a conditional discharge means he won't be on probation, won't have supervision. So that basically ends all this. But legally, once he's sentenced, that means he will be entering the White House as a convicted felon.
They're all convicted felons. They're all these politicians are felons waiting in wings, okay? They all are. They're all criminals. They're all bad people. See, Trump, he's that Saturday morning cartoon villain. What about the other politicians? What about all their other crimes? Anyone going to treat them the same? Hello? Avon calling?
Back to you in the studio.
Until he can go and appeal it. All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Eric.
And also, I want to pull this up. This was a follow-up as well. So let's go ahead and hear it.
So we heard from the lead prosecutor, Joshua Steinglass. We heard from Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's attorney, who is set to become the #2 official at the Department of Justice in just about a week from now. We heard from Donald Trump himself. And then, of course, we heard from Judge Juan Merchan. Donald Trump, I thought, gave a pretty effective statement where he said, quite simply, I was indicted because my accountant labeled legal expenses. And that's why I'm here. He said this person could have labeled them concrete or electrical or anything like that. They didn't. They were legal expenses because they were payments to a lawyer. They were logged as such. And now I've been indicted. He also talked about Michael Cohen.
I want to give a shout out to Dr. Nick, but nobody is above the law. Oh, PhD Dr. Nick on Kick. I'm so sorry, my friend. But if you're part of that billionaire club, laws of the land don't apply to you, man. You can do whatever you want. You can and do whatever you want. Look at all the insider trading. We talked about that on yesterday's show. They can do whatever they want. But, oh, heaven forbid, will anyone take the White House seriously again? Can anyone after W or even Bill Clinton? What about Biden? My goodness, his brain wasn't all there. What does the office and title of president mean? I was talking to a few of my friends, and yes, I want to give a shout out to even my own mom. We talked about, what does it mean to be president? And the thing is, perhaps that title is going to become so toxic that no one wants the lead job. We've seen this before. When the Western Roman Empire was in full decline, nobody wanted that job because the ship was sinking. Do you want to be put to blame? Who wants the title of Romulus Augustus of the United States? And for those of you who don't know, a little bit of a Wikipedia fact, Romulus Augustus was the last Roman emperor of the Western Empire. Nobody wants to be Romulus Augustus. Nobody. And just remember, Romulus, again, the founder of Rome, and then last name Augustus, the greatest emperor, the first one. What a name to be remembered as the last emperor.
He said how he was a disbarred attorney, but yet he was allowed to speak as if he was George Washington. He pointed out from the screen that he was speaking from, he saw into the courtroom and he could see Matthew Colangelo, who used to be a top senior official at the Biden Department of Justice, who left that spot, took a pretty big career downgrade to go join Alvin Bragg and prosecute Donald Trump. He pointed him out and said, this is evidence that the Department of Justice was involved. That was his perspective. And then he said, and I thought this was a very effective line, he said, speaking to Judge Maran, he said, people watched the trial in your courtroom and the people voted decisively. I won all 7 swing states. And, as he was saying that, I was thinking about, as I walked into the courtroom, that the only protesters, per se, who were here were Trump supporters. And even as I'm standing here right now, I'm looking into a square and I'm looking at people holding Trump flags. I'm looking at a person who has a sign that says, enough is enough. We voted. We don't want this lawfare anymore. And I will note on the audio playback that we're about to get from the court, and so everyone will be able to hear for themselves. It is noteworthy that during the trial, there was no audio, there were no cameras, but for this particular sentencing, Judge Maran agreed to have audio. I can't help but think it's because he wants the world to hear his voice sentence Donald Trump, because we were not able to have that before. But this is how these things go. So we heard.
Now, of course, I do want to play this right here as well, as the sentencing was ordered. So let's go ahead and share this tab here as well. Only play just a few short minutes of it.
Mr. Trump, you appear before this court today to conclude this criminal proceeding by the imposition of sentence. Although I have taken the unusual step of informing you in advance of my inclinations, before imposing sentence, I believe it is important for you, as well as those observing these proceedings, to understand my reasoning for the sentence I am about to impose. The imposition of sentence is one of the most difficult and significant decisions that any criminal court judge is called upon to make. Our legislature sets the parameters for an authorized sentence, but it is a judge that must decide what constitutes a just conclusion to a verdict of guilty. A court is vested with broad discretion in determining what sources or evidence it may consider to arrive at an appropriate sentence. In doing so, the court must consider the facts of the case along with any aggravating or mitigating circumstances. In my time on the bench, I've been called upon to grapple with this weighty responsibility for countless defendants who have been found guilty after trial for an assortment of offenses, ranging from nonviolent Class E felonies to the most heinous of crimes, including homicides, sex trafficking, and child sexual abuse. The task is always difficult and deserving of careful consideration, whether the sentence be an unconditional discharge or incarceration of 25 years to life. However, never before has this court been presented with such a unique and remarkable set of circumstances. Indeed, it can be viewed fairly that this has been a truly extraordinary case.
They're dragging it out talking about it, but folks, hold on. There's more to this, and I think Torwin said it best. Literally nobody but, and that was 2 T's, or maybe 1 T, the most deluded shite libs cares about this. I said when they started these prosecutions, they were handing him the White House, and they did. And to the most, and again, the Trump, fine, he's going to be walking into the White House as a convicted felon. Yes, he could very well appeal this, or either that, he'll just roll with it, and he'll capitalize on it. You think he cares? He's the president. Kamala Harris certified him. It's over. All these people in the TikTok sphere who say that Kamala and the Democrats had this great big plan to stop Trump from becoming president. He's walking into the White House, and already he has plans for Manifest Destiny 2.0. This was all a distraction. I think Misty Winston said it best. You know what? That's why we love the Zago brothers, okay? Because we could listen to the judge give his sentencing, or we can actually just remember that this is all just part of a show. You get better storylines from the WWE at this point, because the words of Misty Winston must stay with you all. And this is an artwork by the Zago brothers. Love them. Have to give them a shout out. Anytime there's a new shiny object everyone is telling you to look at over here, you should probably look over there. Comrade Misty Winston. Absolutely correct. It was all distraction, all a show. And for those who seem to be celebrating Donald Trump being walking in as a convicted felon, you think he cares? I think this sounds pretty much will resonate how Donald Trump feels about people calling him a convicted felon. I think he'll roll with it just like how he rolled with the mugshot. Here's his exact thoughts. Here's what he thinks about it.
And here's what I think about it.
He doesn't care. He's still president. Now comes the hard part. Okay, fake resistance fighters. Are you going to be doing a fake protest or parade? Sorry. Better yet, are you going to do another parade in front of Trump Tower? All right. And I'm going to use that word. I want to give a shout out to Nick Thompson. I got to have him back on the show again very soon. But what? You going to do a parade? It doesn't matter. It was all distraction. Even I said that this was going to help Trump, and it did. Convicted felon of the White House. All I could see is his supporters being like, oh, yeah, it's all wrong and unjust. He could appeal it, or he could roll with it. All in all, the world is moving on, and it's January 10th right now. So in 10 days, on January 20th, Trump is going to be sworn in. Can't wait to see the quote-unquote resistance parades again.